This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's number one dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am here once again in the very fine studios of Pod Populi, Podcast for the People. I am at the one in Hudson, Ohio. I have not been at the one in Hudson, Ohio in some time. It is one of the OG Pod Populis. It's either the first one or the second one, depending on how you do the math. But anyway, I'm glad to be here. It's a lovely time of year to be in the Midwest, which it isn't always, but it is right now. So somebody asked me the other day why I don't promote my book more, and I rarely reference it. And my answer to that is pretty straightforward. Honestly, I was wrong about a lot of it. Probably conservatively, 30% of the book I don't stand behind anymore. And I would say I would make some updates in my next book, but honestly, despite, publishers reaching out and hounding me about it pretty regularly since probably 2014, I don't think I'll ever write another book, because once you hit publish and send your baby to print, there's a good chance, especially with what we're talking about around here and the speed at which the landscape evolves, I'm worried that a whole lot of it will be outdated or misguided or flat out wrong by the time the book even, gets to the Barnes and Noble shelves. And trust me, for most of my life, I really enjoy writing. I think it's one of the best things I do. I have made a living from it for a long, long time, and has been noticed by wiser people than me. In pretty much all occasions when writing is required, it's a great advantage to be good at it. And I think I'm pretty good at it. But I just don't do it that much, and part of that is fear of being wrong. So I had to think about that. And part of the reason I love podcasting is every week I essentially get to add a new chapter or rewrite an old one. So when I gave that response about my book, they said to me, "So you don't like being wrong?" And I thought for a second, and then I answered, actually, no, I actually love it, which is a big difference in 2023 Brian Howie versus 2013 Brian Howie. I love being wrong. I think it's honestly exhilarating, maybe because it's so rare. But I think the very act of getting your mind changed, I just think there's something that is so moving and inspiring, obviously thought-provoking, that a lot of times the debate in this great love debate is built on a foundation of prove me wrong. Here's what I think. I think I'm right. Prove me wrong. And I really like that. I mean, I'll give you a couple examples about a few of the things that we, mostly me, have been wrong about during the history of this show. Our earliest tagline for the Great Love Debate was "Get your head out of your apps." And you'll still see that floating around in some of our marketing materials. It's clever. It's catchy. Every time I got interviewed on a morning news show, the anchors would be like, because their brain thought I said something else. But mostly we believed that then. Get your head out of your apps, because we thought that online dating wasn't as good. It simply wasn't nearly as good as real life. And you know what? It's not as good. That's not the part we were wrong about. We were wrong about thinking it had no value whatsoever. And now in the 2020s, I think we have to realize we were wrong. It absolutely has value. You 100% can meet somebody online and have every bit of the relationship you can have if you met at a farmer's market or at a networking social event. We, as a society, I think, have evolved along with the apps. If you use them correctly and get the information you want to get, and find the connections you wish to connect. And most importantly, move things offline in an excited and expedited fashion. It ultimately gets you to the very same starting place. And actually probably a little further along in most cases than if you met at a wedding or in a co-ed volleyball league. And we were so adamant that no, you need to meet in real life or it won't happen. That was wrong. Did a heck of a lot of people meet and date and eventually marry and fall in love after coming to our Great Love Debate shows? Of course. Thank you very much. And was that partially due to the environment? Yeah. And was it partially due to the alcohol? Probably. And a lot to do with the subject matter and the laughing and the shared experience and my masterful hosting abilities. Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. But could the thought process that we were stimulating and the dialogue and the communication, could that have happened elsewhere? On Hinge or on Bumble or even LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a dating site, folks. For sure. And, pretty much otherwise to protect our pride of our brand, it's simply wrong. Get your head out of your apps is wrong. And I felt liberated when I realized it. My brain clicked to a different place, and that place was both cathartic and liberating. I love it. I love the way being wrong made me think. I have written a lot of lines in my career that have made people laugh. And obviously, I always will find that thrilling and validating. But the ones that really matter and give the longest impression are the ones that make people think. You write something and eventually say something that make, 500 people think at the same time, you can actually hear the collective brains whirring. And the brains whirring means that you change the way they thought or perceived. And to do that to a certain degree, somebody has to realize, 10 of them, 20 of them, all 500 of them, I was wrong. What I thought or how I thought it. So for the same thing to happen to me, it's a drug. I like it. Prove me wrong all night long. So I want to get into all of this, our right to be wrong, so to speak. But I don't want to do wrong by the people who pay for all this. So quick break, and we will be back right after this. And we are back. So what else were we wrong about? So back to the book. I think I was way too assumptive that I understand men because I was one, am one. And that might be the single biggest thing I've ever been wrong about. And I should know better because it has driven me nuts professionally and personally every time I have been told that I didn't understand women because I'm not one, which is absurd. Bill Belichick never played quarterback. He doesn't have to be a quarterback to understand how Tom Brady should play quarterback. I don't think a doctor has to have had cancer to understand cancer. And most women get mad when I say this, only know about one woman, themselves, or at best their little inner circle of friends, their mom, sisters, etc. Because they don't take the time to really study any other women's thoughts or perspectives. Mostly out of fear or the I already know. But a big part of it is they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to know they're thinking, living, feeling, being wrong. I'm doing life as a woman just flat out wrong. So I get that scary. So to the ladies, again, there is a joy to the wrong. So come back with me to the guys for a second. For almost 20 years, back to the writing, I have written about the thoughts, perspectives, feelings, experiences of women. My agent always said I wrote better as a woman, in a woman's voice, than a man. Maybe that's my own issues. But I did that because I was curious about it and I wanted to learn because I thought the men were boring because, quote, I already knew them. I already knew the guy part. I was born with that. Well, as I found out during the course of doing the Great Love Debate, I had far less a clue about the men than the women. Because I just wasn't curious about them. I never thought outside the box. I never asked the questions. Never did the research. I never viewed the collective perspective. And so when we started doing the Great Love Debate, the whole thing admittedly felt a little Jerry Springerish. It was boys against the girls. We're right. You're wrong. Prove me wrong. And the ones who ultimately proved me wrong, this man wrong, were the other men. Because every night I would listen to them and they were experiencing things I wasn't familiar with. And they were feeling things I hadn't felt. And they were considering things I'd never thought about, on and on. And their experiences, for whatever reason, were not my experiences. And they weren't wrong. So a year or so into the tour, I went right into therapy. What is, to use that word, wrong with me? Why don't I get what's going on here? And people don't like that word, especially therapists. They don't. They freak out if you use that word. But that is the word. And why I'm embracing it so hard on this episode. So why was I wrong? It's because my perspective on, quote unquote, the men was shaped by my own personal, very narrowed experiences. My upbringing, my surroundings, my relationships, my issues. Lots and lots of issues. So people might blanch at the word wrong, but I'll own it. If I thought a certain way and felt a certain way, I might have been wrong to think that way or feel that way, or at least to let those thoughts and feelings affect my encounters and those around me in less than the best possible way. And before we get all the way into this is not to say, you're going to get excited about the guy or girl you used to date and spent 4 miserable years with, and you're going to wake up, and say, oh my God, that was such a good decision. No. But it is liberating to think that was the wrong time or wrong situation or wrong person, or I was wrong to feel that way or love them as I did. And that's the freedom. Isn't that awesome to know that that is behind you? Isn't that the answer? I was wrong. Period. You want your closure? There it is. Wrong. It wasn't right no matter how much you wanted to believe it. It was fucking wrong. And that should click your brain to the next degree. And subsequent outcome. Wrong. More wrongs will make a right. And think about that. What all this will do sort of to and within a relationship. All of the boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife stuff that we always talk about on the show, it's all rooted in confidence and communication. We have said that ad infinitum on the Great Love Debate. And I'm confident enough to admit I am wrong. And it takes a heck of a lot more confidence to admit you are wrong than you are right. And you got to be confident enough to communicate that. So think about that for a second. Telling the other person, you were right. Saying I was right. That inflames the situation and that breaks down the communication. But when you tell them you were wrong and you realize it, you admit it, it starts the healing and it increases the understanding and it tightens the bonding. It's such a valuable and conciliatory attribute. And we don't talk about it enough. We talk about apologizing. That's a little bit different thing. I'm sorry you feel that way. Not quite the same as admitting I was wrong. I got this wrong. And the value isn't totally in being wrong. The value is in seeing that you're wrong. Because in order to do that, you have to change your perspective and accept and absorb new information that alters your way of thinking. And at least to me, I think that's incredibly gratifying, liberating, stimulating. Once you take things that don't matter out of it, things like stubbornness and ego and pride, probably haven't been too many times where you've said, hey, I admit it, I was wrong, but I guarantee you on the occasions when you thought it or said it, you felt really good afterwards. And I think that's the whole point, which is a little tangent here, which is driving me nuts about the coming storm of COVID 2.0. I mean, not literally a storm of it, but a media and hysteria storm of it as we record this heading into the final stretch of 2023. From a public health perspective, you're going to be like, what does this have to do with love, dating, relationships? Everything. From a public health perspective, every single thing they told you back in 2020 and 2021 was wrong. The masks, the distancing, the efficacy of the shots, the scrubbing of the groceries, how it was transmitted, the symptoms, the treatments, wrong to the nth degree. And the people who admit that, I guarantee you they feel better about things moving forward. And the people who refuse to admit that, I don't know, that they were wrong, that they're stubbornly and blindly clinging to the junk science from a few years ago, simply because they don't want to admit that they wasted so much time and a few years of their lives and possibly irrecoverably wrecked their children's lives, or at least their education, over being wrong. So they cling to, it was right, or we did what was right at the time. Is that healthy? Is that mindset healthy? Is that smart? So, again, not to continue down this political tangent, and trust me, all of this, sadly, is a political tangent, but it's the same mindset. I like what I like, and this is what I want in a man, woman, whatever, and you're not going to change my mind. Well, good luck with that. If you, just for a minute, or maybe a month, you throw all your beliefs and your rules and your barriers out the window, and say everything that I thought or did when it comes to dating and relationships was probably wrong. Do you know how burdened and positive you will feel? Because you have an answer. And all of this, that's what we want. Do you know what that will do for your mindset? How you're doing it feels wrong because it is wrong. Voila, an answer. We twist ourselves into knots looking for an answer. There's an answer, flat out, you're wrong. And so many people, especially the women, come at us with, I listen to my gut. My gut is always right. First of all, you rarely listen to your gut. It's mostly hindsight. And in hindsight is where you discover you were wrong. Your gut is bullshit, ladies. Stop. It's mostly just doubt or fear or deja vu and a whole lot of nothing. Because if your gut were always right, you'd make a whole lot of different decisions. I'll just put it that way. You want to sing praise to your gut, have at it, but you got to be honest about it. Your gut is usually wrong. So sing hosannas to that. It's more on target. That's what's right. You know what? My instinct's off. My gut's wrong. My judgment sucks. Own that. Think you'll feel better about it. I mean, is there a bit of satisfaction in being right and I told you so? Perhaps. But often I think the frustration outweighs the validation. The need for it. I wish you listened to me the whole time. I mean, that's not a real rewarding feeling. I think there's more surety and clarity in wrong. There's more of an aha. You were right is far more rewarding than I was right. And I think we just refuse to see that and say that sometimes. So is there a complete awakening in seeing that you were wrong about something? I don't know. I don't know how much I can say this, but I personally love it. Prove me wrong. Teach me something, which is essentially what that is. Show me how I'm wrong. And I think, oh yeah, when that happens and you allow it to happen, I think it's an amazing feeling. Doesn't mean you got fooled. Doesn't mean necessarily you were dumb, which a lot of this is. People are afraid they're going to be considered dumb if they were wrong. It simply means that your interpretation was a hair off or a heck of a lot off. Either way, it doesn't matter, because once you realize that and recorrect the course, it's really an awakening. You had to listen to be wrong. You had to learn to be wrong. And you had to shift and evolve to be wrong. And I think we all need to accept that and embrace that. The joy of being wrong. Perhaps that's my next book. I said I wouldn't write another one now that I think about it. I could be wrong. So, please, if you have any thoughts on this, they're probably wrong. But shoot me an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com, and we will kick that around on an episode coming. I was supposed to have some kids on an episode today. I ended up doing this. They were wrong. They couldn't get their stuff together. Poor parenting. I'm going to do that soon. Our annual or semi-annual look at what the teens and tweens are going through for dating. That is coming up. But please listen, share, follow, subscribe to The Great Love Debate. Most importantly, every single week I tell you this. Review. Your reviews mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem, even after all this time, because as always at The Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.